Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Guiding Lights. My name is Alexis Nelson, and I am the founder of BEST, which is Be Exceptional Support Together. What we do is we create awareness and we bring people on from exceptional communities that are part of the exceptional community, but who are also providers to add value to those out there who are watching. If you want to learn more about what we do, please visit me at bestsupport.org. And if you have a journey, a story that you would like to share, make sure you email me at info@bestsupport.org. And before I go any further, I must let you all know that we have a walk coming soon that we are so excited about. It is the Don't Stare, Just Care Exceptional Abilities Walk. And we are looking so forward to this event. This takes place May 18th and it will be at Hidden Lake Park. Registration starts at 7. You can go to this page, which is our Facebook page from Be Exceptional Support, to register for the event. Please share the flyer. Don't forget to do that. And also, if you're not on Facebook, you can go to bestsupport.org and you can learn all about what we're going to be doing and how you can be a part of this awesome event. Okay, so now, without further ado, I would like to welcome back to Guiding Lights because she truly is a guiding light, Miss Tony Russell.
Good evening. Glad to be back.
Well, today we are going to be talking about a subject that I know many of you are out there who may not have even thought this far in your journey. But that's okay because today we are going to learn some things. I know I'm looking forward to hearing what she has to do, to how she's going to add value to us today. And I'm excited about it. And I know this is something that many people need to hear. And so, what we're talking about today is guardianship and keeping accurate records. And I do have some questions for you, Tony. But before you get started, if you can kind of familiarize the people with who you are and a little bit about your journey, and then we can go into talking about guardianship.
Okay, like she said, my name is Tony Russell, and I am the mother of an awesome, exceptional son. He is now an adult. He'll be 25 this year. And I do tell you that the years go by quickly when you're on this journey, but uh, he was born with the cord wrapped around his legs, cut off his oxygen during labor, and just had some issues from that point on. Did not know I had an exceptional child until he was about 3. And I realized he wasn't progressing academically like I thought he should. But once I realized I had an exceptional son, I just threw myself into his world so that we could give him the life that he deserved and would not have had I not jumped in. So I'm here to share my journey and parts of my journey because the years go by quickly. They really do go by quickly, and what you don't know can hurt you.
That is so true. I think back when I first had my daughter, and I mean, she's 14 years old now,
Mhm.
about to be 15 years old. Oh my. It's like, wow. And every moment, I'm telling you, I think I have a journey within a journey within a journey
Mhm.
because there are so many places that you go, all the places we may go when it comes to our exceptional loved ones. And thank you for sharing with us, just to kind of remind everyone about who you are and how you are so exceptional. I must say that you have been a guiding light to me and my family. There's some things that I just didn't know, and resources that I wasn't quite aware of, and I appreciate that because it's a challenge sometimes when you're in this community and you need that support system, and you are definitely part of my tribe. So I am so grateful. I'm publicly saying it to you because you are the auntie, you are everything and then some. So thank you.
It's been my pleasure. And I'm sorry that the 49ers didn't win. Give the boys that. They're
Oh,
not happy right now. But anyway.
yeah. Well, my first question before we even get into the topic is, what is guardianship? and why is it important for the exceptional community? If you can just start there for us so we can kind of talk about that.
Okay. Particularly in the state of Indiana, when a child turns 18, they are considered an adult, which makes their signature valid, which makes decisions that they make, whether they understand the consequences of those decisions or not, valid. Their medical information is now personal. No one can release that information to you over the phone. Insurance companies will not release anything to you over the phone. I cannot go onto a website and pull any information on my son because he's over 18. Okay. So, because we have exceptional children, they may not be aware of the decisions that they're making. And so we want to protect them in that way, especially financially, because there are a lot of scammers out there waiting to get numbers from kids, preying on people who don't understand. And it happens to the elderly also. You know, if they're not careful, something looks good. It can look like it's from the IRS, but it's not. And the next thing you know, you're giving out your social security number. My son doesn't even know his social security number. He doesn't need to know it. I know that for him. So guardianship is the legal appointment of someone over another individual who has been deemed not able to make decisions for themselves. So,
Wow. You know, when you said that, I think about how many times, fortunately, your son has someone to advocate for him,
mhm,
someone to protect him. But that's not always the case for a lot of our exceptional adults that's coming in that may not even have services. I won't even start there today,
right.
but that's a whole nother journey. And so you have people out there, not just those who have younger kids, and we're really not thinking about that. Didn't even know that when your child turns 18, you might want to learn about guardianship, but you want to do that beforehand. You don't want to get to that point and you're like, what? What are you talking about? I got to get a lawyer. What do I do? I don't even know where to start. And I know they offer different events sometimes where they bring providers out. It was a really good fair in Hammond one year, and they brought all these different agencies out, and that was one of the agencies they brought out to talk about guardianship. But I must say, I was sitting there and I was like, OMG, this
Mhm.
is sensory overload. Like it was so much to take in that one moment that I couldn't even, I was like, wait, what? What? And so having this conversation about guardianship, not just when we have fairs, but every time we have a platform to create awareness in our communities and all communities, it is very, very important that we talk about things like this. And guardianship is definitely a really a good topic to discuss. And I'm gonna let you talk more about that. I know there are different types of guardianship, and I'm not really quite clear on that, and I'm sure we can come back if we don't, but
Well,
I know there are different types. But if you can talk to us, how do one go about establishing guardianship? Is this
okay.
something that, like we just go online and do, or can you tell us about how do you go about guardianship?
Okay, so I was fortunate enough to be reared through or guided through my journey, our journey, beginning with the Maryville school system. And they told me that at age 18, we would need to take guardianship over him. If not, he could sign whatever. Anybody could get anything from him or whatever. And the most important thing is, I would not be privy to his medical information. I would not be able to go into appointments with him if a provider decided I could not. They didn't have to because he's 18. So, and it's good because, and you do it at 18. You have to wait until they turn 18 because other than that, they're a minor. You don't take guardianship over a minor. You have to do it when they turn 18, when they're legally an adult. And guardianship and social security should be done at the same time. So if you're doing one, you should do the other. That's a whole nother situation. But the reality is 18 adult, 18 disabled is entitled to social security benefits. So I knew that I would have to get guardianship over him when he turned 18. My employer offered legal assistance as a benefit. And so I chose a family attorney off of that list and contacted him and told him I needed to take guardianship over my 18-year-old disabled son. This is where documentation comes in. I got medical records for my son. Of course, and then you have an IEP, but one of the most valuable pieces of paper you can have is either a doctor's note or something in his medical records where he has signed off on a diagnosis. Because I always tell my daughter, and this is one thing I've learned, it does not what you know, it's what you can prove. You know, you can go to an attorney and say something, but unless you can prove it, he'll send you away. And another thing too is when you're doing that and you're applying for Social Security at the same time, they're going to send your child to a psychologist anyway and get their own information that will say that we have deemed him unable or unfit to make his own decisions, his own medical decisions, or other important decisions. You know, Julian is pretty good with a lot of stuff, but what concerns us is that one thing that he might not be. And we don't want to have any accidents with that. One time, we had shortly moved into the house and the treadmill was still up downstairs. And my husband was going downstairs to help him lower it. And the minute he got to the door, he smelled gas. We had just had another hot water heater put in. So I guess it was maybe 3 years since we had moved in. And he didn't know that that was a bad smell. So it's for things like that. We're cautious about letting him live elsewhere. Because so it's the same thing with financial things. You don't want your exceptional child to sign off on something, or we're tech savvy nowadays, or to take his debit card and give that number to someone, and all of a sudden he's got subscriptions you don't know about because no one had guardianship.
And when you said that, Tony, it's just, and people don't realize this happens this happens all the time. This is not something that, oh, maybe. No, this happens. And this is why it's so important that okay, I need to get guardianship, and there is a process to doing this, because many of our exceptional adults are getting taken advantage of, not just by people they don't know, but even by loved ones, by family members. And I know there's something with being a guardian over. What is the responsibilities? Are there certain things when you say, okay, now I'm guardianship over my adult child? What are the things? Are there any things that they say that you have to do? Is it anything different from what you did raising them all your life?
So Julian has 3 bank accounts. And it's really important when it comes to guardianship that the finances are in order. Because when you first apply, we took a letter to our attorney and he asked for what he had in the bank, that kind of thing. Because once you start reporting that, you're going to have to give an account for that. The first time you do it is 90 days after you've actually obtained guardianship. Okay. You're going to give his assets, what he owns. Julian has a treadmill. He's got an Xbox One. He's got so much in clothing, that kind of stuff. And you're going to have to itemize that and turn that over to the court after 90 days. Now, we missed some steps because COVID hit and they didn't tell us and what have you. I think there was a sheet missing or something, but I'll get to that. But it's one thing we're going to learn about keeping records and stuff. But after that, it was 2 years. Well, I thought I was supposed to get a letter. I didn't. When they did catch up with me, it was after our vacation last year. I got a letter from the court stating I had 60 days to submit 5 years of his finances. 5 years. Now, in a perfect world, that wouldn't happen because they would send you something, but COVID stopped all that. And I know because this time around, I already have my date for 2025. So I'm like, if they've sent me a letter for 2025 already, they should have sent me one before. But that's neither here nor there. But Julian has 3 accounts. He has a job and he gets Social Security. So there's one account in which I'm his payee on this account, in which just his Social Security goes into. Then he has another account where his wages go into that account. Then he has a roll-up savings account which ensures that we don't get dinged if he's under a certain dollar, certain minimum amount, because they roll up to the next dollar and they put it into that savings account. Now, we're responsible for making sure he spends his money accurately, that he's not buying a Picasso, you know, because I was talking to one of the fairs we had gone to, and I was talking to one of the attorneys, and she says, you're only reporting all this stuff because they want to make sure that his money is not being spent haphazardly. Just, we don't want to know that he's got a Picasso hanging on the wall or a Monet or anything like that, that his needs are getting met, and that he's enjoying himself. I did ask the attorney about his traveling, and it's like the courts want to know he's going places. They want to know he's traveling, but you want to keep a paper trail of it. Anytime you're dealing with the government, you need a paper trail. When we do our taxes, there's paper involved. And it's the same thing anytime the government gets involved. Now, so we give an account for his money every 2 years. Julian has a debit card for both accounts. I don't let Julian spend cash unless it's been a gift, Christmas, birthday. Other than that, because he used to take my money out, but other than that, it's a debit card. And I'm telling you, when I had to report 5 years, I was glad everything was done by a debit card because it had the place that it went to and what came out and the date that it came out. And so although it was tedious doing all of that, I had it. So the best thing to do is get a debit card so that when you do that, you can put down what went where, how much, and when. You don't have to worry about cash. Julian pays rent because adults pay rent. And I tell people all the time, when you file for Social Security or Medicaid or whatever, let them know your adult's going to pay rent and how much, because adults pay rent. They use water. Julian takes 2 showers a day because it works out. They have their electricity. They're using your Wi-Fi. They're using your cable, all that. So we charge him rent. I write him a receipt every month as if you were purchasing something from me. And he signs his initials in the corner. He gets a copy. I get a copy. I transfer from his account, mainly his Social Security one. We try to make sure his needs are met out of that. His rent, his food. And then if other stuff needs to come out, like clothes, we do that. The other stuff would be like his respite visits when he goes out, for eating. And if they go to the movies, something like that, other things can come out of that. And so it's easy to document. So if I make a transfer and the transfer memo will say rent and expenses, and expenses would be just those things I said. Now I don't put all that down there, but they kind of know. And if they ever come back and ask, it's cable, water, electricity, Wi-Fi. Because if he wouldn't be able to live anywhere for what he pays us. And we're covering him too. So we give an account for everything. I try to minimize it. And it's funny because the Lord showed me a lot of his transactions were Meyer. Well, what I can do now is just get one gift card for a certain dollar amount on it. And so now every time he goes to Meyer, he could swipe that card instead of his debit card. And it only looks like one transaction for a month for Meyer on his bank statement. Much easier than every time we go somewhere. Every time we go Meyer, we go a lot, and he's always needs something. So we're going to start doing that next month. But the thing is to track everything that they spend to the point where there are no questions. Nothing out of the ordinary. We try to not do anything that we cannot get a receipt for. If we cannot get a receipt for it, there's got to be a paper trail somewhere. For example, we went on a cruise last year. He was in a cabin with Brooklyn. Brooklyn was using one form of payment, but his name was on that. It was for 2 guests. He was one of them. We need the receipt. She can print it out. We just split it in half. And that's what was transferred from his account to her account. Now we can transfer from her account to his account on the second account. The second account, because we are guardians, we're all guardians. Brooklyn can make decisions on his behalf if we're out of town. We walk around with a guardianship paper. I need to print new ones because they're faded now after all these years. But it indicates that we have guardianship over him and that we're privy to anything. So if I go to the doctor, one doctor we went to, they just made a copy of it, put it on file. My husband takes them, I take them. now they know that we're guardians. Because if we don't have that, they didn't let my husband in one time, and he called me and he told me they won't let him in, and because we can't expect him to remember everything the doctor said. That's ludicrous. No, that's why
That
we're here.
yeah, that and see, even you saying all that, for those who are out there listening, I know you like, I gotta take all those records. That's a lot. But finding ways that can kind of, like you said, consolidate it, getting one card at a particular store.
Right,
I know even if it's gas, getting a Speedway gas card, putting so much gas on there,
right.
because guess what? You don't get transported for free either. You
No,
know, there's gas, you
right,
have, things like that you may not think that, is important, but it is, because just like you said, he has everyday needs just like everyone else. And those needs
right.
cost. And I'm
Exactly.
glad,
He's an adult. Exactly. And you
they
know what? That makes him feel like an adult. Paying his rent, getting his own groceries, that makes him feel like an adult. So I'm very meticulous when we do transactions from one account to another for whatever. If it's a trip, I'm going to put trip and where. I kind of know what the dates are because we have a ticket for something. If it's a plane ticket, I'm noting plane ticket because I know how much was transferred and to whom it was. Because you know what? It's not that they're going to look at all that. Trust me, they didn't want to look at 5 years worth of receipts. They don't want to look at 5 years. I was 42 pages when I got done. 42 pages. They thanked me for doing that. When does a court ever thank you?
I bet they did, because most
They
people probably
thanked me
wouldn't
for
do
submitting
that.
all of that. They said they have reviewed it and approved it. And I was like, hallelujah. And the barber won't give them a receipt. You generally you go get your hair done, you don't get receipts. Okay, so what we have done was we have built that into his rent as an expense. And then when they go, my husband just gives him the money for his hair. So now I don't have to put that I did, we paid for hair or he paid for hair when I don't have a receipt for it. Because what if they do? What if all of a sudden the courts want to audit stuff? I'd have to have something. So now we just find ways, and your God will show you ways to do stuff. Really, we found a way around that. But he made it feel like, well, I'm not paying for. I don't want Dad paying for my haircut. So no, son, you paid us. We're gonna give it to you, and then you're gonna pay it because Mr. Tyree won't give you a receipt for that. So you can put the receipts by month in one of those expandable folders where you can label it per month because we have receipts everywhere. But and Julian knows he is adequate about it. He keeps receipts. He doesn't leave anywhere without a receipt. He needs this receipt. He might have 27 in his wallet and he can't close his wallet, but Julian will have his receipts. He's programmed that way. He knows he needs a receipt for every transaction that he does.
And that's good. I was just talking earlier about dignity and worth.
Mhm.
Sometimes, especially in our community with our exceptional adults and children, people may not acknowledge them, as
Mhm.
if they don't have a say at all. And that's not what we want to do in the community.
No,
We teach empowerment. I'm definitely strength based. There are some things. Disability does not mean inability. And
exactly.
so therefore we not only have to, make sure our family that we're doing is empowering, but we have to teach other people to do the same.
Right.
Yes, maybe my child may not be able to count past 100, but I'm still going to put that $5 in his hand and we're going to go one, two, three,
Mhm.
4, 5. That's what we're going to do. And so we have to make sure that we are not only educating our families, but those that are around our children and our adults and those who are in the communities, because sometimes I can recall going to a bank and I'm with it, even if you're the payee, that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that the bank person doesn't have to acknowledge the person sitting next to you, it makes them feel bad, because they have
Yeah.
feelings too. They have feelings too, and I'm very adamant about maintaining that dignity and worth of an individual. That's
Right.
very important. And
Right.
even through this journey, when you're talking about guardianship, I know, does this impact your life? Does it? Is it? a lot for you, or is this something that you have just learned how to, okay, this is what it is, this is what we have to do, no biggie? How does that work for you and your family?
For us, and people always have this dream of growing old together and being empty nesters and things like that. And I never had that dream because I didn't think I would have that dream. So it's just become part of our daily routine. You mentioned going to the bank. We stay with the same bank. If we're going in, we go to the same bank because now the people know him. The tellers, they know him. Now, if he's taking out money, sometimes we'll do that for vacations that are far off because you never know what can happen with a debit card. We went to Hawaii a couple of years ago and there's a swap meets and stuff like that. And so they will have me sign off on it, but they will acknowledge him. We personally know the manager. And so they know him. So we let him do as much as he can. But it's just part of the journey. Things change as your children grow and they become adults. And it's just this is part of the adult part of the journey that we have to protect his money, just like we protect his being. We protect his money. We even quizzed him one time. Julian, if so-and-so came to you and asked you for $5, what would you do? I told him I got to go talk to my mom. Exactly. Now, the thing about guardianship, you have to be in it for the long haul. So that's why I don't really recommend anyone who's not related or doesn't have a close relationship with someone to do that because you are responsible. You are responsible for every dime that they spend, every penny that they spend. We had to get permission from the court for Julian to pay tithes. And they wanted to make sure, because it was a nice amount that we had given one year. And I told my attorney and says, you need to write a letter. And so we did. We wrote a letter talking about how the church has helped him, how it's benefited him and his role in the church. And so what happened was we were given permission to pay his tithes off of his income, but not necessarily his Social Security. But you know what? God knows his heart. We'll take what we can get because there are some out there that maybe the church has abused them financially. And the court has decided, okay, we got to be careful with what we allow because, again, they can't make this decision for themselves.
Now that's interesting. So they don't trust the guardian. So
They
if you,
trust the guardian, but and they did okay his income. So his wages we do. It's just because there's a fine line between whether or not Social Security is considered income, because it's not taxed. So if you Google it, they'll tell you it's not taxable. So can you really call it income? We don't want to get in any kind of trouble with the courts. So we just take what they tell us. And
so what happens if
there are
you don't,
guardians you don't trust.
so what happens if you don't have income and your exceptional child does not work at all and that's all they get? And tithing is a part of your what you and you brought your children up this way to tithe. So
What
what
they'll
happens?
tell you, though, is that that's your decision. You can't expect them to understand that because there's a reason they're not handling their finances. That's what they'll tell
Interesting.
you. Yeah. There
Interesting.
are people that abuse. There are guardians that abuse, which is
Hmm.
I'm glad they do keep track. I hope that some people report when they do abuse. But the thing is, if you're going to be a guardian over someone, it's probably very hard to unbecome one.
Okay.
It's because it's tedious. Like I say, and I think September 25, I have to give account again for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I have a system, but I know my son living in my house where receipts are. And it's harder to do if you have someone who doesn't live with you and they spend a lot. Now, my sister, who lives in Kentucky, was my great uncle's guardian. He lived down there to be near my parents. Unfortunately, my mother predeceased him. So my sister went to court and he was in his right mind. He just was feeble and getting old and didn't want to deal with any of his finances. So the courts appointed her his guardian. And she had a beautiful system. She would print out the bank statement and attach all the reasons, but he didn't spend a lot. He was in his 90s in a foster care home for veterans. So his needs were very, he didn't spend money on food. If he needed juice stuff, she'll get it. And again, she had the receipt. And that's kind of a different, and also that was a family member. But he was very minimal. But when you have someone who's thriving and busy and shopping and spending and traveling like Julian, it's a lot of work. But for us, it's just part of the journey for us, keeping track of his money.
So, are there any alternatives to guardianship?
One of them, I believe, and we haven't had to explore it because it's not been our testimony, is probably power of attorney.
Hmm.
But with power of attorney, again, you have to be hands on with it also. We have power of attorney over our father. We did over our mother, which means we could sign something and so be it. That was it. Doesn't mean they could go do something else. But the thing is, though, if you have an adult that you know that no one has guardianship over, just educate them. Just educate them. Help them to identify what's a scam. Help them to understand that you don't give money to everyone. Help them to understand if something doesn't sound right, come talk to me first. Talk to the adults in your life who have your best interest at heart. You know.
That's really good. That's really good advice because, again, there's so many people out there that may be in a situation where loved ones may pass and they have
Mhm.
no one to advocate, or they may end up in the system, as I would say,
Right.
and we have to be careful when our loved ones go to group homes as well, because there is group
Mhm.
homes where they take over the finances and they get to choose and do, help them spend or whatever they need with their money. And sometimes that's abused. And it's sad, but it is something that happens. But thank God for guiding lights such as yourself
Mhm.
that can come on and speak of those things. Because again, who we don't. I mean, you don't think of, okay, well now they're 18. I mean, that's my child. Why do I have to go get guardianship over my own child? That's my child. I gave birth to. And so you don't really think about those things. I know I didn't. And just to be prepared to say, okay, we're going to need to do this. And you said something else that I want to talk about. You said your daughter is also a guardian over
Right.
your son. And I think that is wonderful because we have these conversations like, okay, so if something happens to us, or if, we're unable to take care of, who's going to be looking over her, and not just without any services, because we started earlier to put services in her life
Mhm.
so she can always have that assistance, and whoever may have to take care of her in the case of our demise, that is there for them to support them in the journey, because sometimes people shy away from taking in their loved ones that are exceptional because they don't think they can
Mhm.
handle it or that they don't have the support. But if we are proactive
Right.
and start early and get those things that our loved ones need, then it could better support them as a whole. And I
Correct.
think this is another important, conversation to be held, because we can't say, well, I didn't know. I didn't know.
They're not going
We
to care.
have, they don't. They
They
don't.
don't care.
And
Mhm.
for someone to have to start from the very beginning, it is a process. It
It's
is
a
a
lot.
process. Before you can even get to guardianship, you have no services at all.
Mhm.
And there are services out there. They have voc rehab. They do have where, okay, if there is no one out there that you can stay with, they have community integration housing. So these are
Right.
things that people need to know, because everyone is not in the position where they can keep their loved ones, or it may not be,
Correct. Mhm.
that may not be their story. They may
Right.
need more medical assistance that may supersede what you can provide.
Right.
However, in all of that, we just need to know that there are resources, and always, just when we do have things such as this, these
Mhm.
platforms, and we are part of other communities, that we can be a guiding light and educate people, because that is very important.
Mhm.
Again, those things I didn't know. I'm like,
Mhm.
what? Guardianship? That just blew my mind, because I was like, how? And then the things that you have to do. And I think that's really good that they make you keep up with records because you're right. Everybody's not honest.
Right.
Everyone, sometimes people test to see how far they
Mhm.
can go. And, we don't want that,
You
just
know,
like that.
I had my fob broke, and I would lock the car with the key, but every time I went to unlock it, the horn would beep, 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 beep. And I said, "Man, I need a new fob." And I was gonna wait because they were like $300, and I was just gonna wait till I couldn't take it anymore. And Julie was like, "Mom, I'll pay for it." I said, "Julie, I can't take $300 out of your account for a fob." I said, "It's very sweet of you." And we've even had to be careful with gifts because I think, yeah, we have to be, because we don't want it to look like we're taking advantage of him. What my daughter spends is fine. But a lot of times they would split something, and we want to make sure that the court didn't think that was really wow, an extravagant gift. They bought my husband a smart stove on Father's Day, and then I got to thinking about it. Wait a minute, he cooks on that stove too, I've started to say, okay, let's be careful with even gifts because we don't want it to look like that we're taking advantage of them. And with Julian, though, the reality is, and he's just one blessed individual, and in order to keep your Medicaid, you have to spend down. You cannot have, and he's one of those where, and he's gotten better with it. I got to spend money again. No, it's because we have to do this. And so when he gets a gift for Father's Day or something, it's kind of a way for him to spend down. Since then, we've gotten an able account where if she just, yeah.
So, question.
Yes.
And I'm hearing you say, well, normally if someone, our children, they become adults, they get a job or they, go into their career. There's no limits on what we put, when they want to purchase something for their parents or
Mhm.
their siblings or loved ones. And I wonder, how do they justify that? Like, how do you say, well, that's too much of a gift? I don't know where you come from, but maybe that's not a lot of money in our household to purchase a particular gift like that. So how do you, I mean, how can they decipher that? Like, well, that was too much money to spend on a gift. Is there a pamphlet that they give when you get guardianship? Like, okay, this is only how much this person can spend on this
No,
gift for you.
there's not a
You know,
pamphlet. There is a book out there that you can get. I do not believe that there's a dollar amount that they limit it to. It's just that you have to do, um, you just have to be cautious of things like that. If they saw a purchase from my son for Marshall Fields or Nordstrom's, and there was $1,000, they might question that, unless I had a receipt for. Because they might get tighter for just 2 years. They didn't look at 5 years because nobody's crazy. They go blind looking at all that stuff. But if I produced a receipt for a mink coat, then they may say, okay, wait a minute. Did he just buy her this because he wanted to, or she asked for it and used this as an opportunity to get it? I try to put myself in their mind. If it were me, what would I be thinking? Um, Mother's Day a couple years ago, they were going to buy me something from Jared's, and Brooklyn told him to pick it. They didn't like what I had, and she said, Julian, you pick it, and he picked it, and it was, and they probably don't. It was Mother's Day. It's not like it happens every day, but there are relatives out there who are using their exceptional adults' money to finance their lifestyles. And so we just don't want them to think we're one of them. Like I said, and it's not stuff that happens every day. Julian says all of his needs are met. He travels, uh, he gets his clothes and what have you. But I try to put my mind in the mind of someone who might be looking this, and try to think maybe how would they think.
yeah, well, that is a whole lot of responsibility, I
Hmm.
tell you. But this is, God chose us. I always say, you
Yep.
know what?
Hmm.
Chose us, and what an honor to be able to be a parent to such exceptional individuals. I'm telling you, it's
It is.
you
It's.
look at God's hand up on them,
Mhm.
and how even in whatever the ability may be, he still shows himself present
Yes.
and he still gets the glory because
Yes.
I'm telling you, every day it is something new,
Mhm.
or it's something that you didn't even think, could be. And so I'm grateful. And
Mhm.
again, I'm glad you are shedding light on guardianship because there will be a time where this may be you out there listening. And again, for those who are just joining us, we're coming to an end. However, we've been conversating about guardianship
Mhm.
and keeping accurate records. I had no idea that it will be possible that someone will want to look over 5 years of receipts.
They didn't. I'm like, yeah. Because one of
That's
the reasons was
ABM.
they were
ABM.
so they
Okay.
were so backed up because of COVID that everyone was getting those letters.
Mm-hmm.
So they were inundated with people who had not reported in years. And I was praying, Lord, don't let them need a receipt for this. We were in Hawaii, what have you.
Yeah.
But uh, paper trail. I can't express enough to keep a paper trail. Um, yes.
That's what I say. If it wasn't written, it didn't happen.
Yep.
And so it's very important to keep a paper trail. And it's just with everything. You also said something, and I don't want to go into a whole nother subject, but you said about those important documents. Do you know that there are people that's a part of the community that did not receive an IEP when they were in school? Because sometimes people do not want to accept, or it's very, they don't want the label, or they're not in agreement. And so now your child has graduated, your child has never had services, and now you really need them. You really need them. And there's no documentation. And NISAC only holds IEPs for so many years. So if
Yeah.
you don't have record of that, or there's no documentation, it just makes the journey a little bit more difficult. But anything that's mentionable is manageable. And that's what I got from the good Mr. Rogers. And I truly believe it. Okay.
You, if you wait to come out of denial, we talk about waiting lists. It will take you a long time. Well, even going through the regular process at a normal pace for us, we applied for guardianship when he turns 18. We didn't get a court date until March. He turns 18 in June. Okay, so we have to be on our toes from June until March till we actually got to court and it was signed off on and documented um, before, because there's a waiting list. If you wait to even begin to try to get services and they're now an adult, I mean, the waiting list is horrible. It was one of the things that kept us in Indiana because we thought, Julie would graduate, I would retire, and we go to Florida, whatever. But when I checked out the waiting lists for all of the services in the other states, there's no guarantees those are going to convert to another state. So I don't want to go to another state. And when he's stable, he's stable in every area of his life. He's stable in his job. He's stable at church. He's stable at home. He's stable with his respite visits. He's familiar with the stores here. He knows the bankers here. All that. I didn't want to uproot him and go somewhere and they get caught in this rat race of being on a waiting list for services. It saddens me when I see someone 21, 22, and no one has gone on their behalf. No one's got guardianship. They don't have a job.
Yeah, and it happens more than we know. And that
Mhm.
that is that has been something that I definitely know that best. We are, I see adults that have no services and it grieves me.
Mhm.
It saddens me because they don't, some of them don't even know how to maybe read the documents once we get to the point where they need to get the services. So they say, here's a pick list. And they're like, what is that? Just choose a provider. How do I know who to choose? What does this mean? This is all a bit
Mhm,
much, you know,
mhm,
and it's a journey. When you're an adult and you're trying to get services, the waiting list can be from 2 to 5 years. It's nothing but the grace of God that I have been blessed to be able to get services to people, and it doesn't take that long. Although it is still a process,
mhm,
but it's people who have waited and waited.
mhm.
Now, Indiana, they say, is a little bit better than Illinois. I'm not sure when it
Indiana
comes
was
to,
7 years at one time for the waiting
getting on
list.
the waiting list, but
Mhm.
it's ridiculous. But we need these services for our exceptional community. And that's what we endeavor to do. Make sure those who are in need, those who need help, make sure I'm telling you, I'm here. Reach out to best support. And believe me, teamwork makes the vision work. We do not do this alone. We
Right.
have people such as yourself. We have people that are in different communities that have resources that we may not know about. And then we do this show to bring people on to share those resources and to walk people through. And that's what being exceptional support together is all about. And
And
so,
the services, some people don't realize the money that's involved there. Another reason for keeping documentation. I, to this day, have a couple of IEPs. My son is 25, almost 25 years old. I still have copies of IEPs as well as medical records. I have medical records from University of Chicago. I have medical records from what used to be Children's Memorial. I keep stuff just in case because you never know. But my son is entitled to about $16,000 of services a year through the Medicaid waiver service. He only at this point, and that covers speech therapy, occupational therapy, because traditional insurances will only cover speech therapy to a certain age because they feel that if they don't have it by now, they're not going to get any better. That's where Medicaid waiver services comes in. They will pay for those speech therapies longer. Okay, but Julian has respite. That's the one that he takes advantage of the most.
mhm.
Somebody comes and picks him up every Friday or Saturday for 4 hours, takes him to work out, takes him to lunch. Sometimes we go Christmas shopping or birthday shopping or the movie or what have you, and they're paid for that. And that's one of the services he's entitled to. That's just one of them. And people won't know unless they dig into it. But that's a reason to keep paperwork because you have those services that can be available to you. If you don't have the adequate paperwork to even get those services, then you can't have them.
Well, and if I'm hoping you all are picking up what she's putting down because this is good stuff. You need to know because I know that I'm going to keep accurate records,
Mhm.
and be intentional about it because you need it, and we want to make sure that we're doing things in order and that we don't compromise anything when it comes to our exceptional loved ones. And so I just want you to, wrap it up for us and just give some encouraging words to those out there who are listening who has to begin this journey of guardianship. What can you encourage them about this really, it seems, detailed process? Let me say that.
Okay. I was fortunate enough to find a really good attorney. Uh, he's very hands-on and he talks in ways that we understand. My husband hasn't had really an opportunity to speak with him, but maybe one or two times. The first time we met with him, the second time we went to court. But in recent, when I had to report, he was really good. So find a good family attorney. Um, it's it is just another way that we're protecting our special needs, our exceptional adult. You know, we don't let them do things with tools they're not experienced with. We don't let them get behind the wheel of something they're not experienced with. So we don't want them doing things with money that they're not experienced with. They can't make certain decisions. And so it's not a bad thing. It's just so for us right now, it's just part of our lives. If he makes a transaction, there's got to be a piece of paper for it and it's got to go somewhere. And we don't have to even account for it. It does not bother us at all. We're blessed. We're blessed to have the son we have. You know, yeah, he's sheltered, but in a society that we live in where people are taken out, he is in the safety of his family and you know, and it's okay. We're a happy, balanced family. Even his cousins, when we go places out of town, they'll want to take him with, or they'll come by to see him, if he's here. Um, it's just another way that we're protecting our loved one. And it's also another way that ensures that we have the information we need. Because again, if you don't have a guardianship paper, the doctor does not have to let you in during his visit. The insurance company doesn't have to give you any information. It's a HIPAA thing. It's a HIPAA thing and it's a guardianship thing. You don't, they don't have to. You never want to be in that position where you don't have information that entitles you to your patient's medical history or your son's or daughter's medical history, because you don't have to. So it's just part of the journey. The journey can change a month from now, a year from now. Like I said, the time passes by very quickly. He's going to be 25 this year, and I remember the day I gave birth. And it's like quick, and it's just the journey. The journey just goes on. They don't end, and it's just part of the journey. It's just another level of protection. And I say, if you can get another person to be guardianship in your family, also do that. We did it because we knew we would travel sometimes without, and if ever he was left alone with her, or something happened to one of us, he's covered. Let them know. Let people know where paperwork is. Let people know what the system is. It's like a life insurance policy. Let somebody know where it is. Something happens, they're gonna want it. You're gonna need that. So let somebody know what your system is and where information is, just in case something happens or you're not available. But definitely keep it paperwork.
That's good. That's good. So if you didn't hear those points, what she said, find a good special needs attorney, family attorney.
Family attorney.
She also said to make sure you got that guardianship paperwork, because without it, you can't get in, and you need that. And another tip that she just said, maybe there's someone else in your family that you trust that can be guardian, in addition to the parents. Maybe you should consider that. And then let someone know where the paperwork is. Oh my gosh. Now that's a whole nother story, because you never know. And you want it in a central location so you can say, okay, if anything was to happen, or even if it wasn't something happening, if we had to leave out the country and you needed to know where XYZ, and I didn't get Wi-Fi, okay, I didn't get the good plan where I could talk to you overseas, right? This is where you can look for to get the things that you need right here. So that was wonderful. I'm glad you all are joined us today. I want to thank our very special guest, because she is definitely a guiding light, Miss Tony Russell.
Thank
She
you
is a
for having
wealth
me.
of information. If you need to reach out to her, I'm sure that she will make herself available. For all those out there who are just joining us, this is Guiding Lights. I'm Alexis Nelson. I am the founder of Be Exceptional Support Together. We do things such as awareness campaigns so people can know and they can get resources and they can hear other people's journeys. It's all, listen, there's strength in stories. And I love to bring people on to encourage, to empower, and to let you know you are not on this journey alone, that it will be okay. The best light that I can tell you is God's light, because I'm gonna tell you, He will direct your path. He will guide the way. He will let you know which way to go, which way to turn, and that is awesome. I love it. So you need to get you a strength base. My strength base is God.
Amen.
Everything. He is the one that guides everything in my life. And I'm telling you, He's that peace that you're looking for that nobody else can give you, because the world can't give it to you, honey. You got to know God. You need to know
That's right.
Christ, and He will give you that peace that surpasses understanding. So again, thank you for joining us this evening. We would love for you to continue to follow us. Make sure you like the page. Make sure you tune in. I really, really would love to see you at our upcoming walk, which is May 18th. It's going to be May 18th at Hidden Lake. Make sure you register. You can register today. Register, bring a whole team. As a matter of fact, bring a whole team, tell everybody about it because we want you to be a part of this wonderful, wonderful day. We want to just continue to encourage you all out there, and you have a great, great evening. Until next week, we'll see you later. Thank you for joining
Good
Guiding
night.
Light.
Thanks for having me.